Okay, in this video I'm going to show you some of the ways that you can create charts in Excel. So you should have your spreadsheet open from earlier with the different data sets in there. I'm going to start by showing you a column graph. Now, first thing you need to do is just enter some of the data into these cells here. So just put in the numbers 10, 5, 6, 7 and 2. And we're going to use that data there to create our column graph. So the first thing we need to do is select the data that we want to create the graph from. We've selected the data. Remember that our charts or graphs are up here under the Insert tab, so we go to Insert. Now, along the top here, you've got the different types of charts available. There are more options here as well. So when you click on this little arrow here, that gives you all the different types of charts available. So you can see there's column charts, line, pie charts, bar charts, area, scatter, and lots of other types as well. Okay, so we're going to start pretty simple. We're going to start with a column graph. So I'm going to cancel that, and up here I can see I've got column graph. These are all the different types of column graphs that I've got. I'm going to start with just a 2D simple column graph. So I'm going to click that. Now, Excel tries to guess what you want your chart to look like. So what we've got here is a pretty standard chart with a big heading, information shown below with the axes. Okay, now what it's done is it's inserted that chart onto your existing page. First thing I want you to do is to move the chart. So up here you should have a Move Chart option. So when I click that, I'm going to create a new sheet down here. So I'm going to click New Sheet, and I'm going to give it an appropriate title. So this is my column graph, so I'm going to call it that. And, whoops, just a bit more information. It's based on the transport data. Okay, so column graph transport, click OK, and that opens it in a new sheet. Now it doesn't have to fill the whole sheet. You can make it a bit smaller. The way you make it a bit smaller is down here you've got plus and minus. So if it's really big, you can make it a bit smaller like that. If it's really small and you can't read it very well, make it a bit bigger, obviously, by pressing plus. So I'm going to leave mine about that size. Now there's a few things that I can change here on my chart. I can change the color. Alright, I'm going to leave it with that. I don't really need this key here, okay? It's all, I mean, each column is showing me the same thing. It's showing me the number of students. So I'm going to delete that key. I don't need it. And then my chart fills the whole page. Now, I've got my title. That's nice and bold, so that's good. What I don't have is any labels for my axes. So up the top here, you notice that I've now got a new set of tabs. I've got Chart Tools. So the first tab is Design. Now that's all your colors. The next one is your Layout. This is where you're able to change your titles and labels. So starting from the chart title, if we didn't want a title, we'd press None and it would disappear. Okay, we do want a title, we want it there. Actually, we'll leave it above the chart. Next we have our axis titles. Now we have to do these one at a time. Let's start with the primary horizontal, and I want it below the axis. Now what I've got here is the types of transport, so I'm going to call that Mode of Transport, and you can see that's typed in up here. When I press enter, that's the label I've given to my axis. I also want to do the vertical one, so I'm going to do a rotated title, and this one is showing me the number of students. So number of students. Press enter, and that's changed. Now they are a little bit small, so I'm going to try and change the font of those. Okay, now if I just right click anywhere on the chart, actually it has to be down here near the labels. If I right click there, it gives me a font option, and we're talking about the body of the chart, so all this area. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. Let's make it 14. Okay, so now I've got nice big headings. Right, what I can do next is change whether I show a legend or not. So that's this option. I don't really need to show the legend, not for this chart anyway. I've got data labels. Again, I don't really need to show those. I can read them from the left-hand side here, but sometimes it's handy to have them there. I'm going to leave them off for this one. The next thing is the grid lines or the axes. So the axes, we can change it. At the moment, we're showing the axis left to right. If we don't want to show it, we can turn it off, but that would be pretty pointless. All right, so we need to leave that axis on. So left to right. Grid lines, we can put in extra grid lines. So the minor or the major and minor. So minor alone is all of those lines. Whoops, close that. Or we can have major and minor. Okay, so that just makes those major points there a little bit darker, a little bit bolder. You can do the same thing with the vertical. Okay, we don't really need the vertical ones for this type of graph, so I'm going to turn this off. Okay, that's about it for our column graph. So down here you'll see that it's created a new sheet, given it the name that we typed in earlier, and our chart's all done. Just one reminder to keep saving as you do more and more work. All right, you want to keep saving so that you don't lose any data. Okay, back on our data page, I'm now going to show you a pretty cool graph, a picture graph. So let's use types of pets just to make it a bit fun. So I don't actually want to include the total. Alright, now actually I shouldn't have included it on my column graph either, I didn't think about that. So really I didn't want this extra one at the end here. So if I don't want that, I think I can delete it. Oh, okay, maybe not. Remember, Control Z will undo. So if I don't want that, okay, if we right click and go to select data, alright, I want to remove that total. So I'll click that and I'll remove it. Oh, okay, forget that. Okay, we'll just leave it. Okay, so sorry, I've worked it out. What you do is you go to select data. Now up here is the data that we're using. So if I click on this button here, then it allows me to come over here and just select the cells that I want. So I don't want the total. And then okay, alright. So that's better. Now back to our data. So this time I'm going to select all of these except for the total, and then I'm going to go up to insert, and I'm going to do another column graph, but I'm going to make it into a picture graph. So first of all I'm going to move it to a new sheet. So let's call it picture graph, because that's what I'm hopefully going to produce. Okay. Alright, now to create a picture graph I need to turn these columns into pictures. So the way that I do that is I make sure that I select just one column at a time. So you can see that at the moment all columns are selected. You can see the little dots at the top. So if I just click until only one is selected, then I right click and okay, so instead of right clicking, what I do is select the column, go click on format up the top here. So I was on design, now I'm on format, and I want to change what I'm filling the column with. So shape fill, and I'm going to choose picture. Okay. Okay, so I select just that column. Then I right click and I change the series chart type. No, I don't. I right click and I format data point. Okay, now we're on track. So I select fill and I select picture or texture fill. Now what it's put in there is a picture of a cat that it's stretched out. So I want to change that. This is the column that says dog, so I want to change the type of picture. It's easy just to go to clip art, type in what you're looking for. So I want a picture of a dog, press enter, and a whole lot of options will come up. So you scroll down until you find something that's suitable. Usually the cartoon pictures work the best for these diagrams. Alright. Okay, so I found a picture I want. I'm going to use this one. And we'll click OK. And now, again, it's a really stretched out picture, so that's not much good. That's because this option here is checked, the stretch option. So I want to change it to stack. Now, that has then stacked the picture into lots of little pictures. If the scale's not very nice, then you can change the scale. So I might want to say that one picture of the dog is worth 2 units. Alright, let's see what that looks like. Alright, that is a bit stretched out, so I'm going to leave it as 1 for 1. Alright, and close. Okay, then I move on to the next one. So select just that column, right click, format data point, fill, picture or texture fill, clip art, find a picture of a cat. Why is that taking so long? Alright, go down and find, oops, just a nice little cartoon cat. Okay, that one will do. Insert that, we'll press OK. Alright, it's just taking a bit of time here. Okay, that's been inserted. Let's change it to stack and scale. And the 1 for 1 looks like a pretty nice scale there as well. So we'll close that. Okay, and you would continue on and do the same for the other columns. Whether you keep this key here is up to you, but remember you need to change or add titles and labels, and for some reason I've got an extra column here, so I want to change that as well. So remember to change the data that you're using. Right click, select data, and just change the data. So I'm not sure, I think it's use the heading instead of just using this data here. So we'll just keep it with that. Hopefully that will be right then. Okay, so that's better, but now my pictures have all changed, so I have to go back and fix that up. Okay, so that's the basics of how to use the chart tool. So have a bit of a play around, see if you can produce all those charts that I want you to do. Save them and upload them to SkegsNet, and that's it.